You can pick up a Monoprice Select Mini printer for under $200 and that's all assembled and ready to go. But it's slow and has a small build volume. If you buy one of these printers, is it throwing your money away? Stick around and we'll give you our appraisal of this printer. Printable Science presents a review of the Monoprice Select Mini 3D printer. We've had a bad couple of weeks at Printable Science. I broke our workhorse machine and it looked like we'd be sidelined for a few weeks until we'd be able to get the machine repaired and up and running again. Then I remembered that some time ago I had bought a Monoprice Select Mini during an Amazon Prime Day when it was being sold at a substantial discount, and I, since that time, haven't had the time to do little more than unpack it. So, in our hour of need, I turned to the Mini to see what kind of work it was capable of. The justification for purchasing the Mini was in keeping with the Printable Science design philosophy that wherever practical, our project should be able to be printed on a machine with 1,000 cubic centimeter build volume, which suits the Mini pretty well as its build volume of just over 1,700 cubic centimeters. And if their marketing claims are to be believed, the Mini is the #1 selling 3D printer out there. Now the printer arrives with a large piece of masking tape on the build platform, but we removed that right away and replaced it with a piece of build tack. That did require a re-leveling of the build plate, but bed leveling, though annoying, isn't the end of the world, and it's something you're going to have to get used to. We didn't bother running off a sample from one of the ones provided and just jumped into trying to print off a part we had already printed on another machine. Now, as you probably know, before you can print an object, you have to use a program called a slicer to convert an STL file to what's called a G-code format that your printer uses to control the printer. There's a number of alternatives out there, some free, some not so free. We're not going to look at slicers in this video and focus instead on the printer itself. To load your G-code into a printer, there's supposedly 3 different options. You can generate your G-code on your computer and then transfer it onto a tiny micro SD card. And let me tell you, that gets old pretty fast. When you have meat hooks like I do, fiddling around with putting tiny little cards into tiny slots is an incredible pain. Now, we're big fans of using Octoprint for controlling our printer, so our initial plan was to just drive the Mini with the same setup that we use with our other printers. Then we discovered that there's some difference of opinion as to whether that's even possible, and part of the reason for that is that not all version 2 Select Minis are created equal. There are in fact at least 2 different firmware streams out there, which effectively means you're dealing with at least 2 different machines, all going under the title of Monoprice Select Mini. We crossed our fingers and plugged in our Octoprint controller and had no success in getting it to connect with the Mini. We pursued that a bit and we were rewarded with the USB Mini port inside the Mini falling off. Oh well, so much for quality control. We've ordered up a replacement connector and we'll solder that in place when it arrives, although we appreciate that in and of itself may not solve the connection problem and that soldering in a tiny little circuit board component is probably beyond the capabilities and interests of most potential Mini owners anyway. Now the third option is to control your Mini through Wi-Fi with a very simple web page interface that you can surf to with your browser. Given our lack of success with the USB connection and the fact that the manual came with our Mini doesn't even mention Wi-Fi at all, we were a little skeptical about that working out. We tried one approach that's recommended by the manufacturer and that didn't work out, but a bit of Googling revealed another method that actually worked. If you'd like the details on that, just post a comment below and we'll get you the steps we followed. No guarantee that it'll work for you as it worked for us because, well, we don't know if your Mini is the same as our Mini. If you get the Wi-Fi working, transferring files just involves you dragging and dropping files from your computer onto the web page of the printer. But there's one thing you'll want to watch for. The Mini firmware on the model doesn't do a good job of resetting itself after a print. You really have to do a power reset or else the second file you try to print will attempt to do so without bothering to heat up the bed or the extruder. Surprise, surprise, that doesn't work. However, if you work out the kinks in your workflow, not only does the Mini work, it kicks out very nice prints. Even if you have to take a sledgehammer to get your prints off the build tack. Our experience would indicate you're going to have more of a problem getting prints off your build plate than discovering your prints are not sticking. Of course, this kind of experience is just part and parcel of the whole hobbyist 3D printer world, finding the solution to common problems that solve your particular printer and situation. If you're familiar with more expensive machines, your primary observation is going to be the speed of the Mini. It's rated at 55 millimeters a second, which is about half of what larger machines clock in at. That being the case, that print your friend is popping off in an hour and a half on their fancy expensive printer is going to take you 3 hours. Although I suspect they won't be enjoying any better quality. On the other hand, if you don't even have a 3D printer and never owned one before, then the Mini is a great inexpensive introduction to 3D printing. I suggest you make sure you purchase it from an outlet with a liberal return policy and plug it in and run off a sample print as soon as possible. In fact, don't order it until you're sure that you have lots of time to fiddle with it when it arrives. That way, if you've ended up with a dud, you can return it and replace it for another with little inconvenience. The main thing for a first-time 3D printer owner to keep in mind is that a 3D printer is not a toaster. It's probably the furthest thing from plug and play that you can imagine. We may get there someday, but for now and the foreseeable future, producing a satisfactory object at the end of the day is going to take a certain amount of fiddling with your design, your machine, and all manner of post-processing if it pops out of the printer looking less perfect than you want. But remember, at least as far as the Mini is concerned, small isn't bad. Almost every printable science project, and there's well over 24 now, can be printed off on a printer as small as a Monoprice Select Mini. So unless you're only interested in monster-sized models of the Millennium Falcon, you'll be surprised at how many useful objects are well within your reach with this small, inexpensive printer. If the Mini is going to be your first dip into 3D printing waters, you'll also have the benefit of a great deal of online support from other users who are ready, willing, and able to help you diagnose whatever problems you're having and help you on your way. Just one final note. If you've been longing for a 3D printer because you've dreamed of printing small figurines or miniatures, you probably want to look elsewhere. FDM printers like the Mini and most other hobbyist machines just don't have the precision to require to print off objects with the smoothness and quality of finish most people expect from such an object. The good news is that there's a whole new batch of DLP resin printers that have phenomenal resolution and are going for about 2.5 times the price of the Select Mini. Granted, you'll have an even smaller build volume and a totally different workflow that will require you to work with smelly resins and a 3-step processing workflow, but you'll be printing out things like chess pieces that look like they were commercially made. All in all, we give the Monoprice Select Mini a thumbs up, but that's in the context of what's currently available in FDM printers, not because it's perfect or that you'll never have a problem with it, but for someone wanting to get started in 3D printing with good quality prints and wanting to stay away from kit assembly, or perhaps you need a backup for when your larger printer goes down, this printer probably fits the bill. Thanks for watching. And won't you help by becoming an important part of the Printable Science family and making this channel more valuable and successful? You can help us out by taking the time to watch this video in its entirety and other Printable Science videos as well. You can leave comments and questions below. That will help us to continue to create useful videos and 3D STL files that are printer ready and help you maximize the power and utility of your 3D printer. Your feedback is very important. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up for us. And if you have just a moment, won't you show your support by clicking the subscribe button below. If you want to make sure you don't miss our upcoming videos on 3D printing, you'll want to click on the notify bell as well. And please consider supporting Printable Science on Patreon using the link supplied below. You can become one of our Patreon supporters for as little as $1 a month, and it'll provide you with a lot of extras and additional information as well. And it'll go a long way to helping defray the cost of making these files and videos. Drop by our website and check out our many videos on 3D printing. The latest files and a discussion board on the Monoprice Select Mini are available at the printablescience.com website, where all the science that fits, we print.